It, well, in the intro, my name. Go around. Or like what you do, like if you're.
Yo, it is yours truly, aka Lamar Decina, aka Mr. Kool Spot. I just want to tap in today. We're going to have a beautiful panel discussion. I want to thank everybody that have been staying tuned and being patient. First of all, thank you guys for your patience. Thank you guys for sharing the video. Thank you, matter of fact, to Triangle RDU Black-owned businesses at the Triangle. Thank you for sponsor. We just want to give everybody a special shout out that's tuning in. Please share the video, like, follow the page, the Kool Spot on Facebook. Check it out on YouTube. Check out the promo videos and different things we're doing on YouTube at the Kool Spot on YouTube, and also check out the Kool Spot website. So I just want to jump in today. It is your true Lamar Decina, aka Mr. Kool Spot. Go around first of all and share our panel with you guys. So I think we're going to start to my immediate left right here. Share with the world who you are and a little background about yourself.
Okay, my name is Diana Powell. I'm the executive director and owner of Just to Serve in North Carolina. Also, I am the statewide outreach director, coordinator for Second Chance Alliance. Also, we run a platform here at the Lighthouse Project called Bring Back the Village, Empowering Our Community. Community organizer, community activist, and advocate.
Awesome. That's awesome. Let's go down to the next person.
All right. I'm a first-time college graduate. Graduated from William Peace University, which is a PWI. But I also realized in my experience at a PWI that I spent more time fighting for inclusion than actually just going down the street to St. Augustine.
Awesome. Okay, the far right corner over there.
So my name is Kennedy Mims. Just finished my first year at Meredith, which is also PWI. I'm the daughter of Juanette and Christopher Mims, the CEO's owner of A+ Family Care. Just a little background on that. We basically target to help the community. A lot of doctors' offices don't really take certain insurances. And so we definitely focus on the community, just trying to help out, accepting those insurances and just doing what we can help to make sure our people are doing good and better.
Nice. That's phenomenal. Phenomenal work right there. I love it. All right, next up.
My name is Amir Webster. I just graduated from Ravenscroft High School. I'm a young entrepreneur. I started a shoe business about 6 months ago, selling shoes and trying to build it up through different social media websites, and it's called 2 Kicks, and I'll be attending ECU in the fall to play football.
Nice. All right, next up.
My name is Olivia Hahn. I just finished my first year at the Citadel, which is a military college in Charleston, South Carolina, and I'll be going back August 1st.
Nice. And for everybody that's watching, if you will do us a huge favor and start a watch party on your channel, therefore we can kind of engage with more people, more members of groups, and everybody else that have not tuned in yet. So, but yes, I'm the host of the Kool Spot, this panel discussion, but I'm also a student first, right? So I have my good brother, Sam Blue Sr., that's going to take over from here. He's going to moderate this panel discussion. I'm here to learn. I believe that this is a learning session is what I would like to call it, because we're talking about the progression of our people and also the regression as well. So what do we know? What could we do to help expand? And what could we do to implement those things? That's going to be the overall topic in the discussion. And as of right now, I want to pass the mic over to my good brother, Sam Blue Sr. Take over, brother.
I appreciate being here, and also appreciate just everybody on the panel just taking the time out of their day. And we basically want to bring people from our community, our actual community, different aspects, different backgrounds, social and economical backgrounds, just to see what it is that they see happening in this area, and just their thoughts and feelings, just to give them a voice. So basically, we want to start the panel out. We want everyone just to go around and just use 1 to 3 words just to describe, how you're feeling today with everything that's going on. And if we could start just saying the words that you feel.
Optimistic.
Yeah,
Optimistic.
that's a good word.
Optimistic, compuzzled, and overall invigorating.
I would say maybe just a little confused, optimistic, with a little splash of angry.
Okay. Amir?
Anger and scared.
Lost.
Okay. I would say optimistic and a little frustration. There's hope too, though, by the way. So I got to throw that
Okay, go ahead.
in. Yeah.
I feel optimistic. And I notice, if we look at those words, we heard optimistic because I think we hear that from almost everyone, because I think we see, for the first time, because of social media, a lot of progress happening. And at the same time, there are some people taking advantage of that, exploiting that. And I think we just need to stay focused to, just continuously stay focused on that feeling. What is it that made us feel optimistic about what's going on? We're seeing teams looking at changing their names now. We're seeing basically a lot of companies scared of losing money. That's basically where the driving force is. They're scared of losing money. So a lot of them, they may not have cared, but when you start messing with that pocket, that money, now it's getting serious. And because everybody is now on social media now, it's at an all-time high, these companies are also doing all this PR just to make sure that they don't lose, they can minimize the money. Another thing, I heard was hope. I think that goes right along with being optimistic about, some of the things. What we've heard, lost. I think, we kind of feel that way because a lot of people are kind of confused. They're seeing certain organizations where they're seeing some positives, and then at the same time, they're seeing just as much negative. So it's a day now where we really don't know who to trust, what to trust. When we look at stuff in the media, do we kind of, we're seeing something post, and then we'll see a friend, as soon as they see it, no matter what, they just retweet, they repost, not even reading the link. And now it's become more about not being as transparent or truth, but just being the first one to print something. So we just have to do our own research to do our own fact checking before we actually reflect that, because once you tweet something, once you repost something, you're actually taking ownership of it. We heard anger. We saw a lot of people, a lot of our youth, especially that didn't go through the civil rights. So for them, this is what we saw in the 60s, some of us, they're now saying this is their civil rights. And they're marching. And at the same time, there are some, you have to weed it out. There's some out there that's just looking for opportunity. But I feel optimistic because I see some of the people that want change, they're actually starting and restraining the people that want to create all these riots and things that are going on. Some people are just looking to loot, looking to come up on, just any opportunity they can. So it's a mix. We're in a time where there's a lot of mixed emotions, and nothing's wrong with that. But what's kind of removed from today's society is that we welcome free thinking. We welcome other opinions. But a lot of times, if that opinion doesn't agree necessarily with us, we get kickback, we get bullying, we get all these things. It's okay not to think like the next person next to you. When we got this panel together, it's definitely a mixture of political backgrounds, social backgrounds, economic backgrounds, family differences, all different parts of Raleigh. You know, we have Fuquay, Holly Springs, you know, Garner, you know, Wake Forest. So we wanted to reflect this area with this panel. So with that being said, would you, Olivia, like to reiterate on when you said lost? Can you describe kind of like some of the things that you may feel from that?
For me, really, it's just I have family from like all different kinds of backgrounds, so you hear it from both sides, like fear, you know, anger from both sides. Like recently, I was visiting my sisters and we got into a really heated discussion over exactly who was right, who was wrong, and I just feel that on both sides you're gonna have right and wrong, you know. And I think everybody has a right to be mad, not for the problem, but it's just you get stuck in the middle when you're kind of put in the middle because of where you come from. It's harder to pick a side, or it's harder to say an opinion and be as confident in it.
So being biracial.
Mm-hmm.
And myself, I'm biracial. You know, my mother's Mongolian, my father is African American. He grew up in Detroit. You know, and as soon as he left, he went in the military. So I was kind of blessed to travel around, and I grew up on military bases. So I didn't see a lot of some of the issues that are going on directly, you know, but I think there's a lot of people that don't understand, and that's an issue because we're biracial, we literally see things a lot different. We take more of a neutral stance. You know, I look at Asian people, Mongolian people versus also people that are you know, 100% or 93% Black. So I think a lot of people just need to understand that. And I think hopefully, you know, hearing it here, hearing you speak, hearing my background or anyone else that's biracial, that they will also have empathy that, you know, you don't always have to be extreme or moderate. You can float around because your dynamics are completely different. Amir, you mentioned anger. What would you describe like some of those things that bring that feeling?
I'll say anger because it's like we're in a new day and age and we're still dealing with the same stuff. Like it should be a point in time where it's like, why are we still going through the same thing where we're at right now? And I also feel I said scared because as a young Black man in America, I'm scared. Like it shouldn't be where my mom should be scared for me to go out at night because of the color of my skin or because I have like locks in my hair that it's a difference. And me coming from a predominantly white school in Ravenscroft, it's like I was the only person really there with dreads or anything. So I got to experience a lot and learning a lot of things, but I'm honestly scared to go out and by myself at certain times and go certain places because of what's happening in the world.
So with saying that anger about, you know, us going through the same thing that you're seeing your parents go through, your grandparents go through, like, why do you think that is?
I think it's because it's a lot of people that just don't care to make change. It's a lot of people that's fighting hard, and it's a lot of people that's like, well, I'm doing good, so it doesn't matter what's happening to the people around me in different communities. So I feel like it's like nothing has ever happened to me where I'm like, this happened to me. So it's a lot of people like me that won't voice their opinion because it's not happening to them. Mm-hmm. So they feel there's no need to say anything. Whereas if we all come together, people start saying stuff as a whole, things will start to change.
Well, I think when we look back to Emmett Till, we look at a lot of the issues we're dealing with today, they were dealing with back then. And his mother had that same mindset. And she has said it. When you go up to the museum up in DC, they quote her, she didn't care about what was going on outside. A lot of gang, a lot of KKK, a lot of racism was hitting people around her, but it didn't hit her directly. So that was the reason why she wanted an open casket, because it actually hit home. And unfortunately for the Black community, we do stay in our bubbles because it doesn't hit us directly. We kind of like feel like, well, if I don't pick up the phone or I tune stuff out, it may not hit us. And I think we're going through a lot of those things. Like they just did a poll for Raleigh and found out 17% of the people protesting were Black. So a movement or something that's supposed to be for us, we only make up 17% of the people that are out there fighting for us. So we're not even 17% is not a whole lot. And I think when we go back to the 60s, we go back to the 70s, we go back to all these time periods where we dealt with that, it's literally we made strides. I think right now we're making so many strides just because of social media. But you're definitely right. No parent should have to give their child a pep talk before they go out. I mean, you're an African American male, but the African American female also has to have that talk because they're coming up missing every day. Chicago, Detroit, Charlotte, Raleigh, there's young Black females or minorities coming up missing every week. But nobody is saying anything about it. We're just ignoring it. So we just definitely want to make sure that the people watching here understand, and you kind of like hold yourself accountable to making that 17% grow. Because as long as that number stays that in that small of a percentage, we're going to keep going through the same cycle. And I think this generation here, we have to definitely learn from the past generation. You know, when I had my son, my goal was not for him to be like me. My goal was to be better. And I tell my son all the time, when you have your son, you shouldn't want him to be like you. You want him to be better than you. If you have a daughter, it's that same thing. We always want to progress, but sometimes we see in the community where our parents are okay with us staying at the same level or below. And that's something that was instilled with us all through slavery. It was all through a lot of the stuff that we went through, those systems set up. So I definitely, appreciate you sharing that. With Kennedy, you said optimistic. So when you said optimistic, what kind of came to mind?
When I think of optimism, I think of more like hope. Like there's two sides you can look at it. Like of course, like we're angry with everything. Like you said, like we're going through the same motions. Like by now we feel like it should be different, but it's not. But for me, I think the positive side is like you said, like with protesting, trying to make a difference instead of being negative about it, looking at it like the half glass, full or whatever. Trying to make things better instead of just being at home like angry or mad, like out trying to make a difference. And like you said, protesting is not the only way you can make a difference. Like with my parents, like what they're doing, like with our people and everything. For me, like personally, like I work front desk or whatever, and just like kind of being on the scene, like seeing people come in, having different situations, kind of being understanding because like. Just, I don't know, like certain things, like at a regular, I feel like at maybe another doctor's office, like, they expect you to kind of like be on time and different things like that. But with, sometimes like with people with different situations, some people don't have cars, some people are taking buses. I see a lot of like single moms coming in with like 2, 3, kids or whatever, different things, just different situations. Not everybody's the same, but, so kind of like on that front line, like healthcare, like that's definitely, I feel like trying to make a difference. I feel like sometimes people don't think about certain stuff like that, but like I said, like the whole like insurance thing, a lot of people like they have like, for example, I don't know, Medicaid. A lot of doctors' offices don't want to take Medicaid because they don't want to deal with certain types of patients, or they don't want to deal with like because it's, I mean, like the hard work that kind of comes with like the insurance or different things like that. But when people don't realize like it really shouldn't be about that, you know, if it's really about healthcare, it should really be about making people better, helping people get better. Just like different, like in my opinion, like we're not all the same. So stuff that they're getting treated for, like that doesn't necessarily mean that the same thing should be used to get treated for us. You know, like just because a little kid is always excited or you know anxious or maybe sometimes angry doesn't mean they always need to be put on medicine or ADHD or bipolar. No, they're just a kid. Like you know, different things like that. A different way to go about it. I don't know. Like in my opinion, that's like when I said like optimism, like being positive about it, trying to help. You know, help in different ways that. Like I said, like not only protesting, like with the whole healthcare thing. So yeah.
Okay, so basically what I'm hearing is it sounds like you've taken a lot from your parents.
Yeah.
The outreach on they went into a field or created a business that allows them to help the community.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily focused on the economic side where you know they're looking at the people that actually need the health care and they're willing to take a chance, deal with the extra paperwork to help those in need.
Yeah.
And that right there I think is definitely respectable in them relaying that to you. I know you had mentioned about the Medicaid. You know, there's a lot of, I know in our community, if someone has allergies and they go in, I think we have an 80% rate in the Triangle area where they'll just say you have asthma.
Yeah.
They'll give you a pump. They'll give you those things that the co-pays are low, but the offices, the medical system, the Medicare system gets a lot of kickback in those fundings.
Yeah.
And it may just be that someone has an allergic trigger. So if we just remove shrimp or pork or whatever it is that they're removed, they won't have any of those issues. So it's just respiratory airway disease rather than, you know, having full blown asthma.
Right.
Q, what, you know, I know you said, I believe you said hope.
I said hope, compuzzled, and energized.
Well, compuzzle, what do you mean or what comes to mind when you say that?
So for me, it's like, how did we get here? Looking back, I've looked at the civil rights movement since my parents were actually born in that movement, and my mother came in at the end of the movement.
Yes.
So having a stepfather and a father who was born and grew up in that movement, and my mom be the one that was born after the movement, is really giving me a different insight on confusion and composure. Like, how did we get here? So if she was born in, I think, the 60s, so kind of right towards the end, close to the 70s, 80s. So she's born here, you know, here we are, my brother's born in 89, and then here I am close to the 2000s. How are we still here? What happened? What do we not do? What do we go back to? We look at the Montgomery bus boycott, which lasted, I think, for 2 years, but we look around now and that's our primary transportation. You know, we go on Facebook and we say hood Uber, but yet we go out here and we work for companies like Uber and Lyft and not really do hood Uber. And so a good time like would have been for hood Uber, which is my compuzzling part, was during the protesting. You know, there were still people who we are the essential workers, which could account for that 17% that was not there. How are they supposed to get there if they're relying on a bus system or they're relying on someone else instead of actually having a legit, what we would call hood Uber? So that's where my confusion and puzzle comes in at. I'm confused as to how we got here, and I'm puzzled on how we're going to go forward.
Well, that's definitely issues that you definitely said, especially about the boycott of the busing system. Even now, those things. I'll use this for example. There's been a lot of stuff posted about July 7th. Nobody shopping. And someone sent me an article the other day about not doing any shopping on July 7th. And I responded back, one day, what is that going to do? Like literally, what is it gonna do? Why not today, July 4th? All the sales started yesterday, today, tomorrow. So why didn't they choose to do it on July 4th? You know, so that's why I tell our community to open your, you know, we have to open our eyes. Because nobody is gonna shop on July 7th. You know, you've already spent your money the weekend prior. Why not boycott it for a week? You know, I look at, the Black Greek letter organizations. You know, there was a reality show that came on a couple years ago, and it was about a lot of sorority sisters, and they were ratchet. Mm-hmm. And that show came on, the whole Greek organization came together, and every commercial that was on that show, they boycotted. Johnson and Johnson. They like shut it down. Within 2 months, that show was canceled. Mm-hmm. And I tell everyone like that, you were black before you was Greek. You were black before you crossed over. But you mean to tell me that you'll boycott, you'll take this strong stand for a ratchet show, but you won't take a stand for your people in this area or in your society. So I think a lot has to do with accountability for ourselves, what you're saying. I think we keep recycling because we take certain things over our own people, over our own nationalities, over our own communities. And some people may admit it, some people may not, but that's how it is. You know, I was approached, you know, with my mentoring program. There was a guy who asked me, you know, hey, if you have any kids that make like straight A's or they have a high GPA, we have a mentoring program for those kids. And I said, well, what about the kids that have like a 2.0 or less? He responded to me that, oh, they're too much work. And last time I checked, those are the ones that need mentoring. Yeah. So this is where our society, we as a community, we break ourselves down. And I'm not afraid to call those people out. You know, I do that all the time. And they may refer to me as derogatory, Sambo, whatever the case. I don't care, because I don't care about what people think about me. I care about my community. That's why we're here today. You know, so we can hear your voice, you know, hear what concerns you, your thoughts, because that's the only way we can do is have dialogue. And if we have this panel where everybody in here thinks the same exact thing, we're not going to solve anything. We have this time now. If you have any disagreement with the person next to you, everybody's canceling them on Instagram, canceling them. There's a situation I posted with 2 white families. Conference called me a couple weeks ago and said they removed me because I didn't post a black square. And I said, well, last time I checked, my skin color was my solidarity. You know, so we have to understand we're in this fight by ourselves. It's not white people, not Asian people. We have to fight this fight ourselves. Mm-hmm. And with just 17% showing up, that's not ourselves. We're still trying to put it on someone else. So we just have to continue, as what you're saying, that boycott went for 2 years. When you're black, it's a lifetime fight. Right. When you're a minority, when you're biracial, it's a lifetime fight. And a lot of people just don't understand that. And that's why I think what you're saying, what Amir is saying, what Kennedy's saying, what everybody's saying, that's why we continue to cycle, because we do it a little bit, because it's getting likes, it's getting ratings, everybody's posting their black square. And once this pandemic's over, once everybody goes back to work, another 2-3 years, guess what? We're going to be out in the streets again, repeating the same exact thing, just like we did in 2015, just like we did in 2014, 2012, 2007, 2003, all the way back as, you know, Rodney King, 92. So we just want to remember that we just have to continue to like keep the pressure, but also hold ourselves accountable. Yeah. Ms. Diane, you had mentioned being optimistic, and I know why you're optimistic, because I see you every day from before the sun is up to it down. You have all these kids in the community. You're putting in that work. You are literally putting in that work for the community. And the work that I see you putting in is not because you're trying to get props. The type of work that you put in, you have to have that passion. It's something you do for free.
Yeah.
So that's when I tell people, you know, you're passionate about your job, your business, or what, when you're willing to do it for free. So in some other words, when you say being optimistic, what comes to your mind to be able to say that in today's times?
I always say it's not a moment, it is a movement. We have moments, but when we have a movement, we look for things to get better. That comes to hope, and we look for the change. And I've seen a lot of moments, right? People start something and they stop.
Yes.
They go away. Somebody die, everybody come to the funeral, they go through all of that. They're gonna want to change. Everybody want to stand up and say, we changed. But give it a few days, they go right back. It cannot. We cannot continue to do that. It has to be that movement. And when we say that we may not all agree, that's okay. Because we will not all agree, but we can agree to be disagreeable. And I think that's where the breakdown of our community come from. And then we have that crab in the bucket mentality. Everybody trying to climb to the top. How about if I push you to the top? And then once you get there, you reach back and pull somebody else up. I think that's what is missing out of this whole movement thing, right? I'm not a protester, right? I don't get out there and protest, right? But I can push somebody else that is out there. And it's sad in our generation, like I said, it's only 17%. Where's the movement? Right? And so, and we have to be careful because of not pulling each other back down. We got to stop this backbiting. You know, I say it all the time. We got to stop this backbiting. We got to stop this jealousy. We got to stop it. That's how we will continue to stay right where we are. And I say it again. It's not a moment. It's a movement.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said the crabs in the bucket. It's not a moment, because one thing I remember seeing a lot of my Black friends posting on social media. They were posting to all their white friends saying, "I see you. If you're silent now, I see you." Mm-hmm. And they're calling them out. And to me, I look at them like, that's not who's going to fix the problem.
Right.
Why are we so concerned with what someone posts on social media? For everybody, it's not their life.
That's right.
You know, social media for a lot of people is just entertainment.
Yep.
So what I would expect them to write is, if you are Black and you're being silent, what are you doing?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, they're not dealing with it. When I got the call from those two families on a conference call, they were professional on a conference call. They were so overjoyed that their daughter smelled pepper spray. Eyes were red. They were so endowed that their daughter was yelled at by a police officer that now she has anxiety. And I just said, welcome to our world. Right. This is a lifetime fight where you're just getting into it. You weren't in Baltimore for the whole month and a half when Freddie Gray, you weren't in Charlotte last year. You know, this stuff is always going on. And when I see people call out other people, we have to call out our own, hold ourselves accountable. And, you know, we're brought up to, when you mention crabs in the bucket, it's brought up in our society like, you know, we all struggle together. We're happy. Once one person does well, everybody start hating on them. And then I tell people all the time, I don't want a handout. I want a hand up. Right. You know, but once we get that hand up, you give that hand up to somebody, what do? They don't reach it back down for the next person. You know, they do what they can, and that's something that we have to start improving in our community, holding our own community accountable, as you say, versus waiting on somebody else. This is our problem.
Can I give you an example?
Yes.
And it's sad because if we as Black people, right, when we know that there is a division, and I said competition brings division. We got to leave that out because I'm not in competition with you. And we can all work together. We may not agree, but we can agree to be disagreeable. I had an experience where the community had came together after a shooting. And this individual was over here trying to be a leader, activist. Okay, I got you. I support you. So after the meeting, we come together and I approach. I said, well, how can we all work together? Right. This joker had a nerve to tell me, oh, the community don't want to work with you. Then why are we here? That dismissed the whole reason of why we're here. We're here to come together to work together, right? And we got to kill that. We got to kill it. And that's why I said I don't understand that if we're all here to work together. And that hurt me to the core. You are a black brother. I'm a black sister. We're in this fight together. And you're going to tell me that the community don't want to work with me? Well, what community are you talking about? Because I don't see it. I don't see you feeding the community. I don't see you out here trying to help the homeless, especially during this COVID-19. I don't see you going to the county commissioners. I don't see you going to the city council, but I see you cussing and fussing in the street. You can march until your shoes fall off. But if you ain't bringing change that is effective, we're going to continue to stay where we are. And I'm still willing to work with that individual. Still willing.
Well, Lamore, you had mentioned a couple of words. So what is it that goes through your mind that actually brings you to, state those words and, your background?
Yeah, so the word I wanted to highlight was frustration. And I can concur with everything she's saying. Like 17% of the protesters were black. Let's just look at that, right? And when you look at the movement as a whole, I posted a question on the Kool spot, and I asked the question, why are there so many other races getting the mainstream headline about a Black Lives Matter movement, right? And people are like, well, because the white voice matters, people want to hear the white voice. And I get it, in a way, But if the statistics show 17% of protesters in Raleigh are black, then that means, for one, we really don't care about the movement. We really don't care about what's really going on, because if we were, we would really be more out there. And I can say for myself, I don't like the protest. I'm more a peaceful kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? But if it comes to doing whatever I have to do to raise awareness, to make some things move and shape, then by all means, I do what I have to do. But my thing was this, though, when I was looking at everything, I say, well, why is it that we're always looking for like a bailout? To me, this is just my interpretation of it, right? It seemed like other races have to come in and bail us out of this, because it's gone to the extent where everybody around the world they're feeling the pain behind this death of George Floyd, right? And that's the spark it all. So since his death, people around the world are protesting, everything is falling apart, people are rioting and everything else. But for me and our people, I feel like other races see how much we really care, and they care actually more than what we care, enough to jump in and say, hey, we want to help you guys make change in this area. Maybe we can help pass some bills. Maybe we can help change some laws. I don't know. But my interpretation of it is, what's with the handout, black people? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, can't we just hold this up on our own? Like, think about the whole, the boycott with Gucci. When was that, last year? When was that? Last year? It was 2 years ago. 2 years ago? How long? Blackface. Right. How long did that last? What, 2 months?
I don't even think it lasted that long.
Right? So it's like, it's a moment. It's not a movement. I love that you said that. It's a moment. And like, people are looking for a reason to get upset. Like, prime example, we're like near the Southeast Raleigh area. I used to work in this area. In a lot of areas, because of the frustration and the level of systematic oppression that's been set up in certain areas, a lot of people are angry by nature at this point in life, right? And I remember one time I was working in this area, and I pulled out in the road, and the car was probably like, I don't know, half a block down the street. He hits his gas to try to make sure he beats me from cutting out in front of him. He slammed on his gas to try to beat me, and then by the time I turn, he swings around me, beeps his horn, and shoot a bird. I'm like, bruh, you way back there, what's the problem? You know what I'm saying? Like, you looking for a reason to be upset, and to go off and to really just vent and start something. But I get it. It's systematic. You know what I mean? And a lot of the things that we deal with, I feel it comes from the desensitization of what the media presents to everybody. So I said in an interview recently that we can experience deaths for so long from television and social media, and even while you're out and about in public. And what it does is it desensitizes us, where it doesn't concern us as much because this is another black man dead. We forgotten about tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's an issue when it comes to our people. So our people need to be a bit more sensitive and get back to the origins of one's nature and oneself, and kind of tapping back into the love side of self. You know what I mean? And the peaceful side of self. Yeah, but that can't come in the midst of the storm. So then, therefore, we have to be able to bring forth some programs, some policies, you know, that can actually help some people, you know, with their living conditions. We have gentrification that's going on in the area. It's not all bad, but how good is it? You know what I mean? Because once you gentrify the area, it pulls away from the culture in that area, the history in that area. You know what I'm saying? Even the economics in that area changes. So you're pulling away from what people are used to, and it completely demasks a territory, and it just gives something totally new, something fresh. And it's not all bad. I'm not totally against gentrification, but I feel like there should be better ways to handle that. You know what I'm saying? Yes. But I say frustration because I see where we are as a black community for the most part. There are a lot of good people that are sticking together, banding together, and they're doing great things in the community. But for the majority, let's just use Raleigh, North Carolina, for example. 17% of the protesters. On the way here, me and my nephew passed through downtown Raleigh. We seen a group standing in front of the Capitol building. And I asked my nephew, I said, how many blacks you see there? How many you see? I'm looking on my count. 1, 2, 3. And I know it's every bit about 45 at least. You know what I mean? So I'm like, so we had a discussion on our way here today. But again, I just think that we have to be willing to, okay, for everybody that said they ran the game, all these street cats, all these so-called thugs and these bangers and these OGs, if you claim a set, you need to be out here on your set representing and making change. That's just point blank. There shouldn't be no reason why people that have a set, or let's say I'm going somewhere and I speed off and cut somebody off because I'm in their set, people know that person, he jump out, start something with me, everybody jump in and jump me, right? That's typically how it would happen. But on the flip side, what about to bring some change and some positivity to the area? You know what I mean? Does it take for this crisis to happen to get people to band together? Absolutely not. You know, we can band together by nature instead of looking for the whole pull me down mentality, like, you know what, this dude doing too much. You know, we need to slow him down. He doing too much. You know what I'm saying? And that needs to change. But that's why I say frustration. And that's the one I want to highlight out of the say this. So yeah.
Well, based off what you said, let's look at a word that we've been hearing a lot: systemic racism. We've been hearing that. By show of hands, how many people in this room think that we still have systemic racism today?
I think I would say yeah.
Raise a hand.
Different areas, yeah.
Proud.
Yeah.
Okay, so Amir, what would you classify as systemic racism?
I don't really know what exactly I would say.
Okay, well, let me narrow it down to 3 things. Systemic racism is normally designed around education, finance, and your primarily education, finance, and your area where you're allowed to live. So let's focus it down to those 3 areas right there. So when it comes to education, who feels that we suffer, the black community suffers from systemic racism today?
Education.
Yeah, education. Like where you're able to go to school at, things like that. So before, when we had systemic racism as far as education, if you stayed next door to someone that was white, you literally went to 2 separate schools because those schools are separate. the materials and monies that your school received was about half of what the white school received.
Mhm.
So are you at a school now where it's all black kids?
No.
Who makes up the majority of your school?
Whites.
Whites. Where you went, who made up, what was it kind of mixed, or was it all black, or was it all white?
My school was most white, but even my college now is mostly male and predominantly white.
What about you, Kennedy?
My high school was predominantly
It was, but there were black people at your school.
yeah.
Okay. What about you, Kim?
My school actually, I guess we were predominantly white, but it didn't seem that way because we had Hispanics and blacks, and we all typically grouped together. So as far as like being at that school, I didn't really notice, but I did move from another county where we were primarily an African American school based on what neighborhood you lived in. And then if you go 12 miles down the road to a county line, you were again, based on what area you lived in or what side of the line you lived in, you went to a primary Native American school. And so it wasn't always like, I didn't have that ability to choose between a white or black school. It was just by choice, by force. We moved from one side of town to the other side of town, and I ended up at a predominantly all-white school.
Okay. So because you four are the youngest, let's say, so when you did go to your school, were you separated once you walked through that door to where everybody in your class was white or everybody in your class was black?
For me, since I went to Ravenscroft, it was like I had to be all like you can fit all the black people in that school in one classroom.
Mhm.
So when I walked into school, we had one designated room where all the black people hung out.
Oh, wow.
And I could say like it was obviously a few white people in there, but I can say like we felt like it was comfortable for us to be in there. Like that was our comfort zone. When we go in there, we could
Y'all
talk.
had y'all safe
Yeah.
space.
We could talk how we want to without being judged, and we felt like that was where we were safe at. And I was there for 2 years, and in all my classes, I was like the only black person in almost every single class. Like almost every, except for my English class, it was mostly black people. It was like 7 of us in the class. But taken from that, it's like a lot of people will look at stuff like, well, the teacher's doing this to me, but not doing this to the other person. She's racist. But I can't really say stuff like that because I'm the only black person in the classroom, so I can't say, oh, this teacher's doing this to me because I'm black. I can't think like that because I went to a school where it was 98% white people. So it's just going to that school, and I went to Roseville too. It showed me the difference in the two things or the two schools that I went to, really.
Well, do you think also, because Ravencroft is a private school
Yeah, right.
and Roseville was a public, so let's look at Roseville. Was Roseville diverse, or was it all black or all white?
Just like she said, it was like a different type of. It doesn't feel a certain way because it's like you hang out with your crowd. So I feel like it's a lot of black people there because that's what I hang around. That's who I know, and that's who I talk to mostly. But I couldn't really tell you like what it really is.
Well, I guess when we talk about systemic racism in education, were you prevented from learning, like we'll use Ravenscroft, we'll use Roseville. Were you prevented from learning the same things that the white students were learning? Were you guys segregated from learning? Or were y'all in the same class, using the same books, the same curriculum? Was there segregation in that?
I want to say for Roseville, we was using all the same thing because we was all in the same environment, but it was like different things where maybe a black kid would be put in like ISS for the rest of the year. He's not learning the same ways other people are learning. I can say things like that, but like as far as being in the classroom, it's like it's not like they can really discriminate and say, well, I'm gonna put the black people in this classroom and give them less, and then like, you couldn't really do that because it was 5,000 kids that went to school. So it's like,
Oh. Well, Kennedy, did you go to a public school or private school?
I went to a public school.
Okay, so was there any separation when you went to school as far as classrooms? And
kind of like he said, like the school is predominantly white, so I don't think intentionally like we were separated. But Black people, I think this is just a thing for anybody. When you see someone that looks like you know, you're like, okay, let me go over here. You feel more comfortable, you know.
Safer.
Yeah, you feel safer. I definitely saw that a lot. Obviously, like people who just hung out different places. There's just this thing, like we had like I guess you could say like an area that kind of looked like a little picnic area. The thing is that like all the like white, I guess you could say like preppy kids would like sit over there, and then like Black people, like a lot of Black kids would like go off campus together or like be in the cafeteria. So we were definitely like separated.
But was that by choice?
That was definitely, I feel like that was a choice.
Okay, well, I think that when we look at systemic racism, systemic racism is where basically you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Like when we talk about where we go off into our own group, I mean, naturally, if I put 100 kids into an auditorium, everybody's going to gravitate to people in the neighborhood. You know, that's by choice.
Yeah.
When we talk about systemic racism in the education, we look at like by not choice. You know, so when we look at certain things, and y'all, do you see that there was systemic racism at Roseville?
I don't really see it. I couldn't really say
Like where you don't have a choice. I think when we look at systemic racism, like if I was white, you was Black, and we stayed literally next door in our neighborhood, and we went to school, like we were forced. We had to go to different schools. We didn't have a choice. So I think one thing about this generation is we kind of have to actually know the definition of some of those things.
What I could say is I don't really see it that much in education because me going to Ravenscroft was still a choice. That was a choice that I made, but I do see it with finances because I could say like even with the looting situation, at first I was thinking like, why would people go out here and loot? But then I look at it from my dad's perspective. My dad didn't grow up like me. My mom and dad would do anything that they could to make sure my life was happy. But my dad grew up without a mom. His mom died when he was young. He had 5 brothers. So for a person like him, when you go out and you see they put all this stuff in your face, all the Gucci, Louis Vuitton stores, the nice malls, and you don't have the money to buy it. And I didn't see it from this perspective because my mom always made sure I had what I needed. But for a lot of people, they don't have the money to go out here and buy the stuff that they always wanted. So when they see the opportunity to do so, this is the time that they do it. Yeah. So I do feel like it is like racism in that part because a lot of people don't grow up the same, especially in our community. A lot of people grow up poor without the same opportunities as other people. So when you look at looting, you also got to look at it like they never had nothing all their life. They never got a chance to get anything because you never know what happened in their life. And this is the time that they go and do it because this is the time that they feel like, why not? I can go get it. So that's I do think it's racism in that part of it because it's a lot of people that's fortunate and there's a lot of people that's just like, all these people got this stuff and I don't have anything. So I look at it that way too.
Well, let's ask Ms. Diane real quick. How do you see systemic racism still in education still being today based off of like choices versus no choice?
Well, I see the school to prison pipeline. Systemic racism is definitely in our judicial system, and it starts through the school system. When a Black child just may have an argument or we had a case where a young lady, she was Black, she dropped a piece of, someone else dropped the paper, and the officer asked her to pick it up. And she said, I'm not picking it up. And next thing you know, she's down at the county jail being booked. This was at school. So that led her into that system, right? So going through that system, now that's a record. She has a criminal record now. And then I see a lot of it, especially coming from the school. Young children are going into the court system, and the first thing they want to offer them is a plea deal. Versus a white student goes, they can afford to hire their own attorney. Our Black kids can.
Sometimes they don't even have to hire an attorney. Right,
they don't. They just have to. It's all about who you know, right? And so I see a lot of that. See a lot of the systemic racism.
So when you mentioned 2 aspects. the education system, and also the justice system. Now, I think once that happened with her, with the paper being dropped and her refusing, law enforcement kind of like took over. So I kind of like put that in the judicial system. You know, but when we talk about, I guess where I want us to stay focused on separating is the education side. Do we have a choice to go to the schools we go to? Before we did.
I can give an example. With the educational system, we find systemic racism in our own history. You know, the U.S. educational system teaches us solely that our history started with slavery, to which it did not. It started before slavery, but all we know throughout life is slavery.
Yeah.
Then if we look back at when our parents were coming along, that same educational system, once they integrated, they still kept that model. So here we are. I think you guys are younger than me, but here we are, and we're still talking about their education, which is U.S. history that we have to take a test, we have to pass, is being taught, while ours is considered as an elective. I find it strange that and I'm going to use my home as well, because that's an educational system as well. I find it strange that I didn't find out about my history starting before slavery until I was in my second year of college. I was in NAACP since I was age 2. I moved to Raleigh. I'm 18, 19, 20. What do you mean my history started before slavery? You know, what do you mean 16? What is 1619? I didn't know what that was.
And you said that you was involved with the NAACP for how long?
From age 2 to 18.
Okay, so when I mentioned earlier about us being accountable, is that the group that you was involved with, do you feel like they are a part of the issue why you didn't start learning until you were in college? Like we all know, up until 3 years ago, there were 9 planets. You know, like literally up until a few years ago, there were 9 planets. Now there's 8. We look at the history of Raleigh, for example. Falls of Neuse, that whole area was populated by Indians. You know, people living in Wakefield, all that property on all those homes were taken. You know, we go back in time and look. Half of North Carolina was owned, and they were basically, the land was stolen by bad deals. And when people didn't want to, you know, we hear about the Trail of Tears, those 17,000 Cherokee Indians that were moved from North Carolina all the way to Oklahoma. You know, they had to walk there. And you had a few, you know, that straggled behind and said, no, we're not going. You know, I think we if we go back far enough, you know, there's been some type of corruption in how we were cheated. We look at the Outer Banks. Most Outer Banks was owned by blacks. But then there were bills and stuff that were passed, and they changed the verbiage where these families had this. You had a black family that owned this 5-acre property of land, and basically as they had more and more offspring, that land started to get split up. Well, in '83 there was a bill passed, and basically you had white people that came in and they bought, like they would approach one of the relatives and buy that land, and then they approach another one and buy a certain percent, and once they hit 50%, they overrode the remaining 51%. They overrode the rest, so they could basically take over that land. So that's how the Outer Banks transitioned from being all blacks, because we were given that land because it was swamp. It was, you know, it wasn't hospitable land. So that's what we were given. But now, if you look at all the areas in Raleigh that were not hospitable back then, now they're predominantly, you know, they were taken away through time. But, you know, when we fast forward to today, because again, we can go all the way back to history and see, but when we look at today's time, you know, what exactly, when we talk about systemic racism, basically I consider it a choice, like the financial. Amir mentioned finance. Well, when I went online, 60% of black businesses in North Carolina didn't apply for the payroll protection. 60% didn't apply. I had a lot of friends that said they applied, but I know they didn't. And I saw them on Facebook, social media complaining about it, knowing that they didn't even apply, but they were telling people they did. You know, those numbers, those applications, you know, don't lie. But that's a choice. You know, so I think if we start to like now use this moment, this is you guys, your generation, this is your civil rights. Start to research. You know, we research when the new Jordans are coming out. I know some kids that can tell me for the next 2 years what every release is and what they are. For that same way, we was talking about the stock market earlier, right, Amir? But nothing is keeping you from researching that. You know, you have that choice. So I think when we look at systemic racism, me personally, I only see it in the justice system. I don't feel, because we have school choice, we you know, my son went to Millbrook High School. And when he went to school, I look at the student section, that was as diverse as I don't know what. Like I saw kids that their parents were millionaires hanging out with kids that were about near homeless. And that was me looking as a parent. When I looked at that student section at Millbrook High School, I have never, there was a friend of mine, we went to a game, and he's like, brother, I ain't never seen nothing like this. It was like that mixture. So, you know, I think what we should start focusing on when it comes to systemic racism is the justice system.
But it also goes back to kind of
go ahead.
Also goes back to where you're from. So for me, I started out in Scotland County. Scotland County, which is close to Robinson County, is Robinson County being one of the poorest counties in the state. In Scotland County, what I was doing in 6th grade, they were doing in Robertson County at 7th grade work. And so essentially it goes right back to the educational system. Remember, I don't know if you guys know, but Robertson County also has a reservation with the Lumbee tribe. And so again, we're looking at kind of systemic racism where the funding that they have for this reservation is not being funded to the educational system, which sets them a whole year behind children 12 miles over. And then those same children, we all graduate when we're in the 12th grade. If we pass, we go off to college and we're grouped together. So going from a public school to a private school, which was Peace, that kind of opened up like, okay, now I have the choice to choose my classes. When I lived in Scotland County, I didn't have a choice to choose my classes. It was, they grouped us by however smart you were. If you were academically intelligently gifted, you're on this team, everybody else on this team, and if you're slow, you're on this team. And that followed you up and through high school, which their high school is a vocational high school. So when you graduate, you're already skilled in something. At Millbrook, we didn't have that option. You graduate, you go to college, get a job, or military. But these children in Scotland County, Robinson County, they're able to graduate with HVAC, nursing, CNA, whatever they want to do, they're able to start right there. And so that's kind of more of the systemic in the educational system that we don't talk about, especially being in a bigger city. Moving here, the neighbor that stayed next to me, she was 5 years old, starting kindergarten. They were teaching her Spanish. The first time I ever heard about having to take Spanish as a second language, I was going into high school. But this is a kindergarten. And that's just the difference, like right here in the state that we deal with, that we go through, that people do not talk about. Smaller counties versus bigger counties, you know, and how that systemic racism can play into smaller counties versus bigger counties. Because you have a lot of minorities in smaller counties than bigger counties.
And the population is a lot lower, so the representatives, because I know when I go to Robeson County, I hear the name Oxendine a lot, you know, it's a lot of Native Americans down in that area, Lumbee Indians. But when we look at, let's say, you know, we're in this area, because we could definitely go to Des Moines, Iowa, we can look at, you know, but, you know, if we stay focused on Raleigh, I look at Southeast Raleigh, for example. I know personally a couple students who graduated with their associates, you know, Black students with certifications because they created something in Raleigh called the magnet system. And basically, the first schools in Raleigh that became magnet schools were the worst one, quote unquote, the worst ones where nobody wanted to go to. And the magnet system is kind of how they said, okay, well, we have these rich people. We want to create some type of program to where they're going to want to be there. My son went to Bug Elementary, where their focus was math and science. So they had a lot of things. So I would see carpools. We lived on the next street over, so we walked every morning to school. But I looked at the carpool lane, and 80% of the carpool lane were white people dropping their kids off to that magnet school. I think when they did that, I spoke to Representative Rosa Gill. I used to work with her at DMV. She explained to me that the magnet system was to diversify schools, to make that more so they would have that opportunity. They allowed busing. Now you can stay on one side of Raleigh and bus. You may have to get up at 5:30 a.m. to catch that bus. 2 hours later, get to that school. I don't see it as strong, in this area. Again, we're talking about Raleigh, because when I see two young Black boys able to graduate with their associates, have all these computer certifications. One chose to go to college. The other one, he started his own computer company. He does computers, so he's not even paying for college. He got everything he needed at Southeast Raleigh. So I think the opportunities are there. We just don't research it. Like you mentioned Gucci. I remember seeing the bubble jacket with the blackface on it, and everybody was talking about let's boycott Gucci. Let's boycott Gucci. Guess what? Them rappers was like, I'm gonna wear what I wear. Gucci, they sending me free stuff. I'm gonna wear it. Morals are out the door. So I don't even know if it lasted a couple weeks. But it was so fast that people don't even remember. That's how short it was.
Right. Can I add to? I just want to add a comment.
Yeah.
I'm going to respond to your question. Now, I agree with you. I don't think that. I don't think there's any restrictions with as far as choice of where we want to go. Mm-hmm. But I did a little bit of researching too, and what I found with the median net worth for Black education had some racism, systemic racism that was tied to it.
When you said net, are you talking about like when they go out into a
career and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. So, and this is just like a little 2-minute read of things I compiled from different sources. But it says this. It says one of the biggest lies is if we have an increase in our education, it'll set us up for success, and that's a lie. The problem is we will still have obstacles in the way before obtaining success. The wealth gap that predicts Blacks and Browns will have a zero net worth wealth by 2053 was created by federal policy. How was this possible? I like to ask questions. Well, let's talk median net worth. According to the Road to Zero Wealth report published by the Prosperity Now and the Institution for Policy Studies, issue 1, they found the latest Federal Reserve Board survey of consumer finance shows Blacks with bachelor degrees have a median net worth that is 2/3 of the median net worth of a white person with no bachelor degree. What needs to be addressed? I wrote kind of side note, student loan debts. The National Center for Education Statistics notes an estimated of 77.7% of Blacks borrow federal student loans for higher education, as opposed to 57.7% in whites. Studies also show that more Blacks go into debt in order to walk across the stage as a college graduate. The author Jeff Wilson II quotes, "Going to college is the first business decision many people will make." In his book, Lies Our Parents Were Sold and Told Us. He also stated, you don't go to college to build wealth, you go to college for a network so you can generate higher income producing opportunities. And his last quote, really quick, it says, if the economy is growing at 3% rate, you have to earn 6% to build wealth. Your income had to grow faster than the economy. Unfortunately, if you have a massive amount of student loan debt, your earnings will not grow faster than the debt burden that just kicked in. The disadvantage is when the income gained from educational pursuits is undercut due to the student loan and the added interest. That's where we take a hit. BlackEnterprise.com reports African American women and the dismal link between education and net worth. This highlights the low net worth for educated Black women. This is a little quick breakdown. Single Black women with a bachelor's degree between the ages of 20 through 39 has a median net worth of negative $11,000 to zero, while the white woman has a net worth range of $3,400 to $7,500. Married Black women with a bachelor's degree aged 20 to 39 have a median net worth of negative 20 to 7,700, while white women has a net worth range of 18,700 to 97,000. Single Black women with a bachelor's degree over 60 have a median net worth of 11,000, while white women has a net worth of 384,400. Married Black women with a bachelor's degree over 60 have a net worth median worth 424,000, while white women has a net worth of 778,000. Right, this is the end right here. So, but those are just some of the things that I was able to find in just my research, and I think I lost one, but that's cool. But there's certain things that I was able to find, and I was like, okay, so there is a little bit of still some systemic racism that goes along with the median net worth as far as how the system is set up through the loans that we have to take out, we have to pay back plus the interest, and of course, just the differential from the general public, the median net worth between general public, period, for most whites versus Blacks. You know what I mean?
Well, I think what you're saying, when we talk about systemic racism in education, I think if we research, someone Hispanic even makes more than someone Black. Like literally, Black men or women are literally at the bottom. Right. White men or women are, if we put white, Black, Hispanic, Asian, the order that they get paid in that order is white, Asian, Hispanic, and Black. And I think Hispanic males are even starting to get paid more than Asian males. But that again is, when we talk about systemic racism, we're not really talking about, having those three things. We're looking at choice, and that's why I feel like there's certain things that stem off, like the law enforcement officer that arrested a young lady. Right. To me, that was on the judicial side. Right. When we look at, if I was Black and I applied at Duke University and I got denied, and when you look at all their statistics and things like that by ratio, was I denied because of the color of my skin, or was I denied financially? When we look at how much it costs to go to Shaw University versus Duke, it's literally the same as far as the tuition and all that. People don't know that. Right. But the difference is where Duke only allows 8 to 12% financial aid, Shaw University allows 92% financial aid. That's the difference, but tuition is literally the same. Right. So that's why you get certain things that may be systemic racism, because they're not allowing a certain percent of student loans. Right. They're only allowing that small percent. Right. But when we come to having the choice, and when we come to getting in debt, there's majority of the billionaires in the world today didn't even graduate from college. So the young man that I know that went to Southeast Raleigh, who started his own company, he makes almost $200,000 a year just based off of graduating at Southeast Raleigh. Right. That's good. To me, he's a Black man that is making well over six figures. So I kind of think that, again, when it comes to education, I think we kind of get the lines blurred to what's kind of like classified, because it can easily go into the judicial system. We definitely know economically there's systemic racism. Right. Everybody knows, out of those four things, economic, education, judicial, I think mainly economic and the judicial system is where we suffer the main things. Right. And I think I've heard Ms. Diane say before, you went live and you talked about the sheriff.
Oh, yeah.
About programs that was removed, and we thought because of this here,
Mhm.
it was going to help.
Mhm.
It was going to help. But then actually, most people, more than few, agree that it was worse. They're like, shoot, we should have kept Harrison.
Mhm.
You know, because there were at least some programs. I think you even said you could reach Harrison on the phone.
Mhm.
So that's where I think we need to, you know, where in our promo where we talked about accountability.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
You know, we have to make sure that, you know, we hold politicians, we hold people we vote for accountable. Don't look at political party. Don't look at right and left. Don't look at any of these things. Look at the policy of that politician that he's telling you, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And when they don't do it, we have to hold ourselves accountable, because if we look at Raleigh, there's been police brutality for at least the last 30, 40 years. I've been in Raleigh for 25 years. But yet we continue to vote for the same people. There's people, you know, representatives that have been in their position 18, 22 years. There's been people at the Senate and the House hitting 40 years. But yet we continue to vote them in, and yet we blame other people for them not doing what they're supposed to do when we're the ones voting. We look at the affordable housing bonds that are on our things. We're signing those bonds thinking that we're giving back to our own community, but these politicians reword it to where we're thinking we're helping, but we're pricing ourselves out of these neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
We're here at the Lighthouse, and right now you walk down the street, we have 800 and up, you know, $1 million homes literally right down the street now. DMV headquarters is about to get knocked down. There's going to be $1 million condos and stuff built in that place.
Mm-hmm.
We sign those bills when we vote. When we look at the ballot in November, we look at the bottom of that ballot, doesn't have that $1 million affordable housing bill or a bond that literally nothing is benefit. It's going to raise taxes to where our people that want to buy homes, become homeowners, won't be able to afford it. You know, so I think we just have to go into accountability to also educate. So, you know, I charge all the young people here with like looking at systemic racism in education. We definitely know that economically we have it. We definitely know in the justice system we have it. You know, that's there was a person arrested the other day for the same exact thing. A young lady, her dad is a coach, you know, at a college, and guaranteed nothing happened. But yet, you know, this young brother who was literally almost close to her in proximity that got arrested, same thing, had a $15,000 bond. You know, no priors. You know, a great kid. So let's you know, look at those things, and let's charge those people around us with having accountability to like research. Just don't vote because of political party. Just don't vote because somebody color of skin. Just don't vote because somebody's a male or female, Hispanic, or if they're gay or straight, or if they're trans. Let's start charging them if we're gonna vote for them. So this basically here today was to get your voice, so I could compile something for you guys to give these politicians, for them to own up. Don't just give them your vote. Or I hear somebody saying, "Oh, I'm going to vote because it's not this person," but that person is yet to give a policy. Let's demand a policy from them. You know, that way we can at least make our vote valuable. Because, you know, if we look at, you know, our elections, some people wasn't elected because of the black vote, because we didn't demand that. But you have, you know, our opportunity zone that's in this area. You know, I see black people in this area driving around in Bentleys, and you know, with the you know, you've been in them, the star headliner. I've seen your pictures, so you know what that's about. But what are they doing to like bring opportunity zones to using that? They're saying, "Oh, well, white people are using it." Black people, we can come together and also invest in that. It creates jobs in the area. You know, we have Amazon now that's bringing 1,500 jobs, you know, right there in Ghana. So, you know, as we move forward, you know, all the things that you guys have shared, you guys have talked about, let's kind of like just holding people accountable and kind of like spreading the love. Stop hating people, crabs in a bucket, just because somebody is doing well or what drugs they sell. Or, you know, like, let's stop hating on people and let's come up together. Let's not demand handouts. Let's start demanding hand-ups. You know, and I think you know, I hope in a year I see Amir here with a storefront. You know, his Instagram, you know, approaching, you know, 20, 40, 50,000 with the blue check. I see, you know, this young lady here already killing it at the Citadel. You know, I'm pretty sure she's probably going to be the valedictorian. And, you know, let's charge each other with being better. You know, don't charge a white person or a Hispanic person or someone else. Charge ourselves with being better. And that's how we progress. Because rioting is fine, but rioting and protesting, you're outside the house. You know, as we begin to like start researching, you know, all the powers and resources available, we go from out the house to in the hallway, to in the room, to eventually being at the table. So that's how we continue to, you know, progression versus regression. So that being said, you know, we just want to thank everybody here, but I also want to turn it back over to Mr. Kool Spot, and you know, just thank him for allowing, you know, these young people here to, you know, voice their opinions.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say, first off, thank all of you guys for taking this time out of your busy schedule. And it's the 4th of July. Y'all celebrating?
No.
No.
I'm not.
No.
But no, I just want to thank you guys for taking this time out, because it really means a lot to be able to get this information out to the masses. We all have a voice, and one thing that I share with people is, you know, people say, well, man, you're doing a lot, you're doing this and you're doing that. I'm like, yeah, I would say, yeah, I'm a bit courageous. I don't think anybody else in my family is doing all that I've been doing, right? So I'm kind of breaking the mold and setting a new path for legacy's sake, right? So one thing I tell people is everybody's voice matters. And don't be ashamed to stand in front of people if you can't articulate the words right. Your grammar is a little incorrect. You know what I mean? And you can't convey it as if you see somebody else on the television, a newscaster, and everybody doing their thing. I'm like, yo, I'm not perfect. I'm from the South. I'm from Florida. You know, from the hood to be exact. So, yeah, you're going to hear a little slang. You may hear a little bit of incorrect grammar. And you can try to, you know, deny me for the grammar side, but you can't deny the information.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So you can deny the grammar, fine, whatever. But challenge this information for me and check me on that, if you will. And let's have a good dialogue and a good build on that. And let's build towards that so we can better our own people. And, you know, and that's just the way I feel like this is necessary for everybody else, especially those younger. I have my nephew over there with me. He's just moved up here. He'll be living with me. And we got a lot of building to do. You know what I mean? So this, I feel, is really good for the younger generation. We know, you probably don't know, but the Kool Spot is to create a place where millennials meet. That was the idea. But I'm learning that millennials are not the only ones that are hungry for information. You know what I mean? But I do feel like we are charged with being the ones that has to disseminate information to those that are younger than us, that's up and coming. So what the elders were to us, we are now that to the next generation behind us. So that's what the Kool Spot is about. Let's be about the information. You know what I mean? I also want to give a shout out to Kevin Bethay. He is the founder of the Triangle RDU Black-owned businesses right here in Raleigh, Triangle, North Carolina. Check out his group page. He's been doing a lot of great things with getting people connected. Big following on his group page. I think he had like 10,000 followers or so on his group page. We're going to collaborate and do some things collectively as collective so we can help build and help each other out. Shout out to my man Samuel Blue Sr. For taking the time out and for being a visionary behind this. You know, I'm learning. I've been a part of panel discussions before, but never held one like this. You know, I've only been on the panel side, never really been on the moderating side. So now I'm learning the ins and outs, and I'm learning from somebody that has a lot more experience than I do. So I just want to say thank you, brother, for coming up with the idea and being led to share, and even the collaborations that we do have together, and where it's going to go. You know, so thank you for that. My co-host, Sharita Freeman, aka Free the Poet. She's a silent storm over there, all quiet and everything, but the words and the banner you guys see, the comment section that's being moderated, the logo, the intro, all that you guys see, all the animations, that's her working in the background. So shout out to Free, aka Sharita Freeman, aka Free. She's my assistant. She's doing a lot. Kevin Bethea, thank you again, brother. Thank all of you guys. Please don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and the notification bell if you're on YouTube. Let's stay in touch. Thank you guys for your time. Love and support. Peace.
I